Okay. Now that's as big as it used to be. And there's supposed to be YouTube right here, but I'm not figuring out how to get it started on. Anyway, let me get my talit on.
Facebook, you're on. Yep, you're good.
Okay. Oh, so it is on Facebook. Okay. Great. Well, if it's on Facebook, it should know most of this, huh? Thank you for double checking.
Yes, sir. Enjoy.
I'll see you after the service. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We are at the top of the hour, and we are about to traverse a Shabbat evening service beginning on page 5 in the red Mach Sidur Lev Shalem. Bottom of page 5. Shalom Aleichem Malachei Asharet Malachei Elyon Mi Melech Malchei HaMalachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Boachem L'Shalom Malachei Ashalom Malachei Elyon Mi Melech Malchei HaMalachim Kadosh Baruch Hu Baruch Hu Nile Shalom Malachei HaShalom Malachei Elyon Mi Melech Malchei HaMalachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Tzeitichem l'shalom malachei HaShalom malachei Elyon Mi Melech Malchei HaMalachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Those of you who have candles at home to light, the blessing is actually in this Siddur on the bottom of page 4. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. And we continue with our warm-up before the formal Kabbalat Shabbat with Yedid Nefesh on page 10. Yedid Nefesh Avarachaman Mishoch Abdach El Ritzonach Yarutz Abdach Kamo Ayal Yishtachabe Mul Hararach Ki Yerab Lo Yedidutach Mino Fetzuf V'Kol Ta'am Adurna Ziv Haolam Nafshi Cholat Ahavatach Ana Eilna Rafana La Behar Odla No Amzivach Az Titchazek V'Tidrape V'Hayatalach Shivchat Olam V'Tigyemu Rachamecha V'Chusna Al Bein Ohavach Ki ze kama nichsov nichsav lirot betiveret uzach Anaili machmad libi chushana ve'altit alam higalena ufros chaviv alai Etzukat shelomach Ta'ir eretz mikvodach Nagila b'nismechabach Maher ahuv kiva moed V'choneni ki me'olam La 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 la. The formal beginning of Kabbalat Shabbat is with Psalm 95 on page 11. Lechun ranna laronai nari aletzur yishenu nikadma fanav betorah bizmirot nari alo nikadma fanav betorah bizmirot nari alo Ki el gadol Adonai umelech gadol al kol Elohim asher beyado mechkerei aretz v'toafot harim lo asher beyado mechkerei aretz v'toafot harim lo. We are on page 11. Come, let us bow and kneel. Let us bend our knees in the presence of Adonai, who formed us. For Adonai is our God, and we are God's flock, sheep in God's caring hands. If only you would listen today to God's voice, and not become hard-hearted like the people at Meribah, like that time at Massa in the desert when your ancestors tried me and tested me, though they had seen what I wrought. Arbaim shana gut bedor ba'omar amto eli ba'beim behem lo yada'u derachai asher nishbati be'api im yavou kol menuchati. 13. Shir l'Adonai shir chadash, shir l'Adonai kol haaretz, shir l'Adonai barachu shemo basaru miyom liyom yeshuato. Tell the nations of God's glory. Speak of God's wonders among all peoples, for Adonai is great, surely to be praised, more revered than other gods. For the gods of the nations are mere man-made idols, but Adonai fashioned the very heavens. Therefore, grandeur and glory are God's honor guard, strength and joy where God is found. Offer to Adonai, peoples of the world. Offer to Adonai honor and strength. Offer to Adonai the honor due God's name. Bring a gift of thanksgiving and enter God's presence. The top of 14. Bow to Adonai in the glory of this holy place. Tremble before God's presence, all who dwell on earth. Announce among the nations, Adonai reigns. The land is firm and will not be moved. Peoples will be truthfully judged. Yismechu hashamayim v'tagel ha'aretz yiram hayam u'melo ya'aloz sadai b'chol asher bo az yiranenu kol atzei ya'ar. Livnei Adonai kiva lishpot ha'aretz yishpot tevel b'tzedek be'amim be'emunato. On 15, we have Psalm 97. Adonai malakta gel haaretz ismechu im rabim anan varafel sevivav tzedek umishpat mechon kis'o. Flashes of lightning illumine the land. The earth watches and trembles. Mountains melt like wax at the approach of Adonai, the approach of the master of all the earth. The heavens tell of God's righteousness, and all nations see God's glory. 16. Worshippers of idols shall be shamed for praising false gods. All that is deemed supreme shall bow before Adonai. Zion hears of it and rejoices. The cities of Judah exult, as you, Adonai, pass judgment. For you, Adonai, are above all that is earthly, exalted over all that is worshipped as divine. O have Adonai sin ura, shomer davshod chasidav miyad rishaim yatzilem. Or zaru ala tzadik o yishrei lev simcha, simmechu tzadikim baronai, vehodu lezecher kodsho. And we have Psalm 98 on page 17, going on to 18. Shir l'Adonai shir chadash ki niflot asahu shi alo yemino uzro akodsho. Hodi Adonai Yeshuato le'nei agoyim gilat tzidkato. God dealt faithfully and kindly with the house of Israel. The very ends of the earth saw our God's saving power. Thus call out to Adonai, all the earth, break out in joyful singing. Sing to Adonai to the music of the lyre. Lyre and voices making music together, with horns and shofar cries, trumpet and presence of the sovereign, trumpet the presence of the sovereign, namely Adonai. Yiram hayam umelo devel yosheveva narot imcha uchav yachad harim yiranenu livnei Adonai kiva lishpot haaretz yishpot tevel b'tzedek ve'amim b'meisharim. And finally, Psalm 99 to complete this cycle of nature psalms. The very nature itself worshiping God joyfully. Adonai malach yirgezu amim yoshev keruvim tanud aretz Adonai b'tzion gadol v'ram hu al kol ha'amim. A sovereign strength lies in the love of justice, and you forged the paths of truth, judging Jacob righteously and justly. Therefore exalt Adonai our God, bow down before God, the Holy One. Moses and Aaron were among God's priests, and Samuel later among those who called upon the divine name. They called to you, and you answered them. You spoke to them from amidst the cloud. They kept your covenant and the law you gave to them. Adonai Eloheinu ata nidam el nosei Etz Ahayem b'nokem ala lilotam. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu v'shtachavu le'ar kodsho ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. And on 21, we have Mizmor LeDavid, and I have to share with you tonight a Spanish-Portuguese 500 or 600-year-old Sephardic melody for this. Mizmor LeDavid, Havu l'Adonai b'nei Elim, Havu l'Adonai kavod va'oz, Havu l'Adonai kavod shemo hishachavu l'Adonai b'hadrat kodesh. Kol Adonai al hamayim el hakavod irim, Adonai al mayim rabim. Kol Adonai ba'koach, Kol Adonai behadar, Kol Adonai shover arazim, Vaishaber Adonai et arzei halevanon, Vayarkidem gemo egel, Levanon v'sirion gemo ven re'emim. Kol Adonai chotzev lahavoresh, Kol Adonai yachil midbar, Yachil Adonai midbar kadesh, Kol Adonai yecholel ayalot, Vayechesov yarot, Uvechalo kulo omer kavod, Kulo omer kavod. Adonai lamabul yashav, Vayeshev Adonai melech leolam, Adonai ovzli amo yitein, Adonai yevarech et amo vashalom. Appropriate to use that melody in a synagogue that is co-founded between an Ashkenazi and a Sephardi earlier synagogues. So let's not do Ana B'Koach, but hang on to your seats and grab your prayer books tight, because we are going to do a whole bunch of Hasidic melodies for Lechadodi, moving it forward about 3 centuries. Lechadodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela, Lechadodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Hishmi'anu el hamyuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shem u'diber v'lita hila. This is 23, by the way. Lechadodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela, Lechadodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nei lecha, Ki hi mekor haberacha, Meir rosh mikerem nesucha, So ma'aseh b'machshava techila. Lechadodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela, Lechadodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Mikdash melech melucha, ומצאי מתוך ההפכה, רב לך שבת במגבך, והוא יחמול עלייך חמלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. 24. Na'ari me'afar kumi, tifshi bigdei tifartechami, al yad ben yishai beit alachmi, korva el nafshi ge'ala. Lecharodi likrat gala, penei shabbat negabela. Lecharodi likrat gala, Penei Shabbat nekabela. Last one in this melody. Hidoruri, Kiva ore, kumi ori, uri, shir daberi. Kevod Adonai alaich nigla. Lecharodi likrat kala. Penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecharodi likrat kala, penei shabbat nekabela. Number 2. Lo tevo shiva, lo tikal ma, tishtochachi, umatehemi bach yechasu ani ami benivnata yir. Aldila lecharodi likrat kala, penei shabbat nekabela. 25. Third melody. V'hayu l'shimsa shosayich v'racha kukol mivalayich yasis alayich Elohai kimsos chatan al kala. Lecharodi likrat kala, penei shabbat nekabela. Yamin usmol tifrotzi v'yataronai ta'aritzi al yadish ben parsi v'nismecha v'nagila. Lecharodi likrat kala, penei shabbat nekabela. We face the back and we'll bow left and right to greet the Shabbat bride. Boi v'shalom, ateret ba'alam, gam b'simcha uv'tzola, toch emunei am segula. Boi chala, lecharodi likrat kala, penei shabbat nekabela. Lecharodi likrat kala, penei shabbat nekabela. Me top at 27, we calm down a little with Mizmor Shir, Mizmor Shir, Le'yom HaShabbat, Mizmor Shir, Mizmor Shir, Le'yom HaShabbat. Tov le'odot l'Adonai ulzamer l'shimcha elyon, le'hagid b'boker chastecha ve'amunatecha ba'leilot. You gladden me with your deeds, Adonai, and I shall sing of your handiwork. How wonderful are your works, Adonai, how subtle your designs. The arrogant do not understand, the fool does not comprehend this. The wicked flourish like grass, and every evildoer seems to blossom, only to be destroyed forever. Surely your enemies, Adonai, surely your enemies will perish. All who commit evil will be scattered. As a wild bull raises up its horn, you raised my head high, anointed it with fresh oil. As my enemies gather against me, my gaze remains steady, for my ears listen and hear your promise that the righteous shall flourish like the date palm and thrive like the cedar in Lebanon. And let's sing that on the right-hand side at the little arrow. Sadik karamar yifrach kerez balbanon yiske sherulim bebeit Adonai b'chatzrot Eloheinu Yafriku Od Yenuvun V'Seva Tishenim Rananim Yehu L'Hagid Ki Yashar Adonai Tzuri, Tzuri, Velo Avla Tabo. 29 has Psalm 93. And I would like to do a little cantorial piece that really shows the meaning of all these words. It's talking about rivers rising up, raising their roar above the waves of the sea. Adonai malach, geyud labesh, labesh Adonai, oz hitazar, aftikon tevel baldimot, nachon kis acha meaz meolam ata. Nasahuna wrote Adonai, Nasahuna wrote Kolam, Yisahuna wrote Tochiam, Mikolod Maim Rabim Adirim Mishbereyam, Adir Bamarom Adonai. Eidotecha ne'emnu mehud, Levetika Navakodesh Adonai Leorech Yamim. So we can't do Morris Kaddish, but my understanding is that it is customary here to hear a few words of Torah. So what I've been doing is giving an overview of the whole Torah portion on Friday night, and come back tomorrow and we will be chanting from the first part of all this, and my sermon will concentrate on that first part. So we pick up Parshat Shoftim with the very tail end of chapter 16, which talks about appointed judges being impartial. And tzedek, tzedek, tirdof, justice, justice shall you pursue. Tomorrow I will briefly talk about the difference between formal and distributive justice, fair and equal, which are not the same thing, according to the Torah at least. Then chapter 17 starts out with some consequences for idol worship, yet again. And in the middle of that chapter talks about the fact that when there are disputes, turn to the priests sometimes to adjudicate them, even though I know that there at that point had already been set up, thanks to Moses' father-in-law Jethro, a judicial system also. But most important of all in chapter 17, there are limitations placed on the behavior of kings. And spoiler alert, a whole bunch of those limitations were disobeyed by kings like Solomon, much to our sorrow. Chapter 18 talks about the fact that the Levites when they get into the promised land, are not going to receive parcels of land, rather just cities to which someone could flee if they did unintentional manslaughter. More about that tomorrow. Come back tomorrow to hear a little bit about why that is important. But it goes on to talk about avoiding pagan practices and soothsayers, and instead listening to the prophets that God has assigned. And actually, one of the things I'll be mentioning tomorrow is that different people, different roles came about different ways, and prophets were assigned by God, pretty much, or chosen by God. Chapter 19, the famous cities of refuge. They have to be equally spaced around the land so that someone who did involuntary manslaughter could actually get to one before the family members caught up with him and killed him. And again, part of what that's all about is trying to make life a little less bloodthirsty than it had been before the Israelites had their encounter with God. And at the end of chapter 19, the fact that witnesses cannot tell lies, or should not tell lies. They must be true. Chapter 20 starts with something very interesting, and is the father of a young man who, right after college, served the Israeli army as a combat engineer, which is, I believe I've heard, the second most dangerous thing he could have possibly chosen to do, short of being a commando. If a whole bunch of conditions exist, like you built a house and you haven't lived in it, you married a woman and you haven't consummated your marriage, things like that, you're not supposed to have to fight. So that's interesting. And speaking of fighting, the Israelites are commanded to at least offer terms of peace before they attack an enemy. We're not supposed to do wanton destruction, which is called Bal Tashchit. And then finally, of course, we're only doing 1/3 of this tomorrow, but finally, what you'll hear about in 2 more years is chapter 21. The first half of it talks about the blood guilt of town leaders when a murdered body is found near their town and no one can be blamed for the murder. So, lots of stuff to ponder on, and we will do the first third of that tomorrow morning in the middle of the sermon. In the middle of the sermon. That was the sermon. In the middle of the service. That's what I meant to say. So, speaking of services, let's get back to the main body of the service. We will not do Baruch Hu, but we will continue on the rest of 39a. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidbaro ma'arvi v'arabim b'chochma b'dei she'arim u'b'tbuna mishanedim u'machali v'razamanim u'msader et kokhavim kamishmerotehem barak hiya kirtzono. Praised are you, Adonai, sovereign of time and space, whose very word brings on the evening dusk, whose wisdom opens the gates of dawn. Understanding changes not just the day's division, but who sets up the succession of seasons and even decides which star will be where in heaven. Umavir yom umevid laila, umavdil ben yom uben laila, Adonai tzavot shemo el chai v'kayam, tamidim loch aleinu le'olam va'ed, Baruch Adonai, Hamari v'arabim. Page 40, talking about God's love for the house of Israel shown by granting us the Torah, rules of life. Ahavat olam beit Yisrael amechavta Amachavta, Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadata. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shochveinu kumenu, nasiach b'chukecha, v'nismak b'divrei Toratecha u'mitzvotecha l'olam va'ed. Ki im chayenu b'orech yameinu, u'bahem negeh yomam v'layla. Ki heim chayenu be'orech yameinu, u'bahem negeh yomam v'layla. Rejoice in the words of the Torah and in God's mitzvot, for they are our life and the fullness of our days, and we shall meditate on them day and night. Ve'ahabatecha al tasir mimenu leolamim, Baruch ata Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. El Melech Naaman, page 41. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'kol lebavcha b'kol nafshecha b'kol meodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'el asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinandam levanecha v'dibartavam Shivtecha bevedecha uvlachtecha v'derech uvshoch becha uvkumecha uksartam lehod al yadecha v'hayu letot tefod bein einecha uchtavtam hamezuzot bedecha uvish arecha. We'll continue the second and third paragraph silently. Man yerbu mekem al adamash nishpat ki me'ashamayim al haaretz. Actually, I have a note here that your custom is to chant the third paragraph of the Shema even in the evening, so we will do that on the bottom of 42. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe lemor, daber el bnei Yisrael v'amarta lehem, v'asu lahem tzitzit al ganvei vigdehem ledorotam, v'natanu al tzitzit ha'kanav v'til techelet, V'aya lachem litzitzit u'ridem oro u'zkardem et kol mitzvot Adonai v'asitem odam v'lo raturu acharei levavchem v'acharei nechem asher atem zonim achareihem למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמת ואמונה כל זאת וקיים עלינו כי הוא אדוני אלוהינו ואין זולתו. So let's read some of the redemption prayer on 43a on the left-hand side in the big print. God is our sovereign, redeeming us from earthly rulers, delivering us from the hand of all tyrants, bringing judgment upon our oppressors, and retribution upon all our enemies, performing wonders beyond understanding and marvels beyond all reckoning. God places us among the living, not allowing our steps to falter, and God leads us past the false altars of our enemies, exalting us above all those who hate us, such as Pharaoh. God avenged us with miracles before Pharaoh and offered signs and wonders in Egypt. God smote all of the firstborn there and brought Israel from their to lasting freedom, led them through the divided waters of the Sea of Reeds as their pursuers and enemies either drowned in the depths or got stuck in the mud, depends on where they were actually crossing. So with that comment, let us find on 44 that Song of the Sea, the Michamocha, most famous line of the entire whole column of Torah. U'malchut tov ratzon kibelu aleihem, Moshe u'Miriam u'bnei Yisrael echanu shira b'simcha rabba, ve'amru kulam, mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha ner b'kodesh, no ra tehilot, o seifele, no ra tehilot, o seifele. Malchut tekara uvanecha, bokei ayam livnei Moshe u'Miriam zeli, anu v'yamru, Adonai yimloch leolam ba'ed v'nemar, Ki fada Adonai et Yaakov ugalo miyad chazak mimenu, Baruch ad Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. On 45, we have something that only happens at night, which is asking God to watch over us at night. Hashkivenu. And I will invite you all, online and here in person, to follow along in the English on the left-hand side of 45, and I'm going to this week chant the Hebrew side, and hopefully you will see how the chant paints the meaning of the words. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'shalom V'ha'amidenu Malkeinu L'chaim Ufros aleinu sukat shelomecha V'taknenu beitza tova milefanecha V'hoshi'enu Lema'an shemecha V'agei b'hasbadeinu V'haser me'aleinu O yevdever v'cherev v'rav v'yagon O yevdever v'cherev v'rav v'yagon V'haser satan milefaneinu umeachareinu Uv'tzel genavecha tastirenu tastirenu Ki el shomreinu umasilenu ata Ki el melech, melech chanun brachum ata, ushmor tzeitenu, uvoenu l'chaim ulshalom, ulshalom. Me'ata ve'ad olam, ve'ad olam. Ufros aleinu sukat shalomecha, Baruch atah Adonai, Haboreis sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. And on the top of 46, the absolutely most peaceful, calm, quiet melody I know for B'Shamru to talk about Shabbat peace for us all. V'shameru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asod et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam b'rit olam Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael od hi leolam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai er hashamayim ve'er haaretz. Uvayom hashvi Shabbat vayinafash. Uvayom hashvi Shabbat vayinafash. And with that, I invite you to rise for your own Amidah at home and here. And that is found on pages 47 through 52 in Lev Shalem. So let us gently conclude the Amidah with a quiet melody for Oseh Shalom. Oseh, oh, by the way, this is 52, if you would like the words. Oseh Shalom, Shalom b'mrumav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Oseh shalom, shalom b'mrumav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. So, you're welcome to remain standing, actually, for Vayichulu on page 53, but without a minion, that's the only part of this stuff after the Amidah that we can do until we get to Aleinu. Vayichulu hashamayim b'haaretz v'chol tzivam, vayichal Elohim bayom hashavim malakto asher asa, vayishbot bayom hashavim mikol malakto asher asa, vayivarek Elohim et yom hashavi, vayikadesh oto, Kivo Shabbat mikol malakto, Kivo Shabbat mikol malakto, asher bara Elohim la'asot. We'll do a little kiddush out in the foyer afterwards, so let us go directly to Aleinu on 56 and 58. Aleinu sabeach Adonai kol adei gedula yoser bereshit, shelo asanu g'gei aratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpagot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu gayam, v'gor aleinu k'chol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, v'shachavim u'morim livnei melech, Malkei HaMalachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shehunu De'Shemayim V'Yosei Haaretz, Moshavi Karosh V'Shemayim Imal, Shkina Rusa V'Galpei Meromim, Hu Eloheinu Einot, Emet Malkeinu Efes Zulato, Kakatu B'Torato, V'Yadata Hayom V'Hashivota, El Levavecha, Adonai hu Elohim b'shamayim mimal, v'al haaretz mitachat ein od. Al kein nigvel Adonai Elohim Yirchad yirakol v'yirachol Ki ha-malchut shekahir ol me'adim lo v'kavod gagadu b'toratecha, Adonai lo le'olam va'ed v'nemar, v'yadonai l'melech al kol haaretz, v'yomahu yeh Adonai echad, u'shmo echad. Now, before reading the Yortzeit names, we are now in the month of Elul, the countdown to Rosh Hashanah. So if you will turn to page 59, it is customary to do Psalm 27 during this month. I'm I'm just going to pick a few lines to read in the top half, and then maybe we can go back and forth in the bottom half with the indentations a little bit responsively. Adonai is my light and help. Whom shall I fear? Adonai is the stronghold of my life. Whom shall I dread? When evil people assail me, my enemies and those who besiege me, it is they who will stumble and fall. One thing I ask of Adonai, this is what I seek, simply to dwell in the house of God all the days of my life, to behold God's peacefulness, and to pray in God's sanctuary. And now my head is raised high above my enemies round about. I come with offerings amidst trumpet blasts to God's tent, chanting and singing praise to Adonai. Let's do this part responsibly. Adonai, hear my voice as I cry out. Be gracious to me and answer me. Do not hide your face from me. Do not act with anger towards me. You have always been my help. Do not forsake me. Do not abandon me, my God, my deliverer. Show me your way, Adonai, and lead me on a straight path, despite those arrayed against me.
Do not hand me over to those who besiege me. For false witnesses and hatred have risen against me.
If only I could trust that I would see God's goodness in the land of the living. Together, place your hope in Adonai. Be strong and take courage, and place your hope in Adonai. Lule mandilero patu Adonai be'eretz chaim, kavel Adonai chazak v'ya'ametz libecha, v'gavei el Adonai. So here are the names for whom we will be reading, obviously not Kaddish, but Psalm 23 on page 337, if you want to turn there. 337. Right near about 2/3 of the way through the book. Anyway, this week we observe the yahrzeits of Walter Brenner, Blanche Katz, Herman Miller, Nace Barone, Helene Brenner, Louis Held, David Brenner, Jenny Hirschberg, Eleanor Martin, Samuel Beton, Julius Brenner, Sadie Franco, Morris Byrne, Perry Smith, Pauline Cohen-Witt, Jacob Kilberg, and Dorothy Levenstein Segal. Any other names that you have? Okay, thank you. And if anyone would like to simply say other names in your places, as far as I'm concerned, that counts. So when we don't have a minyan, I understand the custom is to do Psalm 23 on page 337, which we will do in English. Adonai is my shepherd, I shall not want. God lays me down in green pastures, leads me to still waters, renews my life, guides me in right paths, for that is God's way. Yea, though I walk through a valley as dark as death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You spread a table before me in full view of my foes. You anoint my head with oil. My cup is overflowing. Only goodness and steadfast love shall pursue me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of Adonai forever. And with that, let's turn back to page 62. Oh, wait, announcements. What would a service be without announcements?